Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Then we have a grant application resolution for 42-200-249 bridge replacement structure.
Yep, looking for you to approve and authorize the chair to sign a resolution for that. This grant application for that structure, and that structure's at the south end of our 139 gravel road.
So moved, Madam Chair. Second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Item 23, 2021 Federal Bridge Replacement Grant Application Resolution for 42-200-226.
Still, same thing, looking for approval and authorize the chair to sign that resolution for that replacement grant. This one is also on 139 gravel, outside of Weber Seeks Pond area.
I so move. Second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Item 24, same thing, grant application for 42-120-158.
Yep, same thing. Authorize the chair to sign the resolution for the bridge replacement. This bridge is located on 125 south of 18.
So moved.
Second.
Thank you. Sean, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. Item 25, again, Federal Bridge Replacement Grant Application Resolution for 42-120-283.
Yep, authorize chair to sign this resolution for bridge replacement. This bridge is located on the south end of 125.
So moved, Madam Chair.
Second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes. We have a 2021 Bridge Improvement Grant, Preservation Grant for 42-020-201.
Yeah, so we were awarded a big grant for preservation on this in the amount of $517,600 for the load-bearing support of this structure. That bridge is on 105, right south of 140. We call it the Orange Bridge.
So moved.
Thank
I
you.
second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Hey, remember this for next time. Keep up the standard of moving me through quick, would you? Perfect.
We'll work on that. Moving on to item 28, SDCL 10-3-14, Annual Conference with Commission and Director of Equalization. Carla, good morning.
Good morning. So in accordance to South Dakota Codified Law 10-3-14, the Director of Equalization shall meet the county commissioners at the office of the county commission on the first meeting of April for conference in reference to the performance of the director's duties. For several years, we have done this in open session, and some of the information that we have gone over, I submitted with the agenda. And I apologize, I had a landscape type setting. When I dumped it into the civic clerk, it portrayed it. So some of it's on the second page. Some of the information that we have gone over in years past is in regards to the reappraisal. So in 2015, Lincoln County started the countywide reappraisal, and I have given you information on how many parcels we've been able to complete during the reappraisal cycle. Last year, we did get a late start because of COVID. We determined we were going to do our reappraisal slightly different. Instead of having interior type inspections, we sent questionnaires to property owners. We did get a good response back, very similar to an interior inspection. It was at about a 60% response back from the property owners. We were able to complete about 2,400 reappraisal projects in 2020. For 2021, we are slated to do approximately 2,700 parcels. And I think if you look through the years, you're looking at, well, Carla, in 2017, 18, and 19, you were in the upwards of the 4,000s to 5,000 parcels that we were able to inspect. Well, as we head into our rural communities, we have drive time, we have multiple buildings. It's not just a house and a garage. It's a house, a garage, a grain bin, sheds, and the drive time alone. So this year, we're looking to get started sometime late April and complete about 2,700 parcels.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Anybody have any questions?
So some of the other information that I have supplied to you is some of the workshops, conferences, and schools that are available for the assessors for the 2021 assessment year. I did lay out a few workshops, conferences, and schools. As COVID has last year took away a lot of opportunities. We had some virtual conferences last year, but all of our schoolings and workshops were put on hold. And as we've progressed through the year, some of these workshop schools and conferences have started coming back to the assessors, taking place on more of a personal type conference rather than virtual. For 2021, we do have the SDAAO conference in Hot Springs that will be on site. We have approximately 6 to 7 employees that will be in attendance with that. We also have been informed just recently that the annual school will be held in September, and that's in Pierre. And the North Central Regional Association of Assessing Officers will be having a virtual conference in June of '21. So right now, those are the conferences, school, and workshops that we have available for the certification process for the assessors. Staffing has not changed. We did decrease staffing by 1 in 2020. We currently have 10 certified appraisers, 3 full-time property technicians with a part-time property technician, myself and the deputy. As of today, we have one vacancy in the office, and that's an appraiser position. I'll get into the workloads and such as we go later during this revaluation. So appeals are what we are dealing with right now. All the local boards have already met. They met the 3rd week in March. This year was a larger year than normal for appeals. Some of the reasonings for the large increase in appeals, we had a couple property owners in Sioux Falls that had multiple properties that they appealed. There was a condo unit that had 55 that appealed, so that brought our numbers up above the previous years. Another big increase that we had in appeals in 2021 came from Lennox. What is different and what happened in Lennox this year versus last year or any other year, we did a desktop appraisal. And what that meant was we took our property information that we had on file and we put it into our mass appraisal system. And we used the information we had currently and just came up with a reevaluated assessed value in Lennox. A lot of those Lennox properties saw some big increases, anywhere from 20 to 30%, which is not abnormal for our reappraisal process to see some of those large increases. So the Lennox brought our total appeals numbers up quite dramatically. The other areas, and I have highlighted Lynn, LaValle, Canton, Grant, and Perry, those were also reappraisal areas that we had done into 2020. The numbers are slightly larger, but not to a concerning percentage. When you look at the percentage of parcels in Lincoln County, we have approximately 29,000 to 30,000 parcels. Less than 1% are appealing their values. Less than 1%, so. What I don't have for you, and Doc, can I get the doc cam up? What I don't have on here, and I have some chicken scratch that I wanted to touch basis with you. So on Monday, the 19th, at 8:30, we'll be holding our Consolidated Board of Equalization. And the Consolidated Board of Equalization consists of 3 county commissioners, a school board member in Canton, and a city official. So that will be on the 19th at 8:30. And we have approximately 18 appeals, and that changes every probably hour. So what the total appeals will be is to be determined because the deadline is today. So there could be some more appeals, but right now we're looking at about 18 appeals, and we give them 10 minutes during the county and consolidated board. So we're looking at, for sure 3 hours of consolidated board. And then from there, Tuesday afternoon, starting at 1, we will go into County Board of Equalization, and we have blocked off from 1 to 5 p.m. and again have a session from 6 to 9 p.m. So it'll be a full afternoon and into the evening. And I foresee that being filled by today. Because right now we have about 115 appeals coming to county board. One of which is 55 parcels. So it's one owner, 55 parcels. We won't give them 10 minutes for each parcel because they're all essentially the same. We will give them extended time just to make actions on the board. So that's what we're looking at now. That number will change after today. We do have an overflow day, and that will start Thursday at 1 p.m. We will finish up any appeals that we weren't able to complete on Tuesday, and then also do our owner-occupied appeals and our exempts. And this year, our exempt properties will be dealing with just a handful of new exempts. It wasn't our 5 years, so we had to reevaluate every exempt property. It's only our new properties this year, and then just a motion to approve those continuation exempts, and you can do that in one motion.
And we're not having a meeting on the 20th, correct?
That
A
is, is that the
regular me-
Wednesday?
A regular meeting. That's a Tuesday, the 20th.
That's correct.
So
It's the
it'll
third
just be in the
week.
afternoon. That will be here for boards,
Yes,
right? Okay.
yes.
Yep, 1 to 5 and 6 to 9.
We'll be using the new agenda software that you currently are working with. It will list the time, the owner, and the parcel number in each agenda slot. What we will include is our comparables or our PowerPoint that you are very familiar with. It'll also include the PT-17, which is the objection to real property. That's the form that the appellant fills out, so you'll be able to see from your agenda software their reason for the appeal and what they would consider their value on their properties. And then in the third slot on each appeal, we will supply you with any documentation that we received from the appellant. So you'll see time, owner name, and parcel, and then 3 attachments, all labeled exactly the same. It'll be our PowerPoint, the PT-17, and then supporting documentation. Do we have any questions with any of that information?
I don't. Anybody else? All right, thank you.
Okay. Commissioner Gibbon, did you have a question? I saw you.
Monday
No,
night,
okay.
the 19th. Monday and the 19th. What was that for? That's
The
it?
19th,
Yeah.
which is a Monday,
Yep.
starting at 8:30, is Consolidated Board of Equalization. Sean did find a resolution last year through doing some digging. It's only 3 commissioners, 1 school board member, and 1 city official.
Who's gonna get tapped on that?
Well, I have court on Thursday, so I'm out for the overflow, but I can do Monday and Tuesday, so I can be here for Monday. Anybody
At
else?
first thought, when Sean and Sherry and I were visiting, we were thinking maybe the chairman, the co-chairman, and then Commissioner Gibbon, because it's his district.
Sure.
Yeah,
You're available?
on Monday. Yeah.
Right, okay.
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron's, are you available on
All
Monday?
those days work for me.
All right, great.
Yeah, I can help out another day too, if there's need.
I think that's a great choice on Monday. I think that's good, good team.
And Tuesdays would be good too, because it's a long day and
Yeah,
make sure that we have a quorum here. I'm not sure
I'm here.
who's on the list right now.
I'm here on the 20th.
Okay.
Can we have everybody here or?
And we can, it'd be
Yes,
good,
preferable.
because you're going to deal with a public that has expectations.
The second set of information that I provided for you during this conference is in regards to our property transfers. And what are property transfers? Any property that has transferred in ownership comes through the Register of Deeds. They file it, and then they give us what is referred to as a PT-17, property tax form. I think I said 15, it's actually 55. We process all those property transfers. We had in upwards of 3,300 property transfers in 2020. Of those 3,300, we had 29 good egg sales, and we had 1,383 good non-egg. And what I mean by good is they were open market type sales. They were listed with a realtor on the open market, no relationship, no,
Arm's length transaction.
yep, an arm's length transaction. Thank you. So after we evaluate all of our good arm's length transactions, we look at a median assessed ratio. And what that is, it's our assessed value versus our selling price, and we come up with a median ratio. And for our ag properties, our median ratio was approximately 41.47%. Quite low. Ag property is not being valued on a market approach valuation system. It's a productivity system. So not concerning on the 41.47. All of our productivity information is supplied to us by SDSU and Department of Revenue and other sources. By law, the reason why I keep a ratio in place and we have to look and make sure that our properties are not constitutionally over market value. So we're way under. Our non-ag transfers, we started off with a median ratio of 84.8%. Well, by law, we have to be over 85. So our range is between, state law says 100% of market. Department of Revenue and other parts of the law say directors of equalization can be between 85 and 100. At the very first look of all of our property transfers, we are below 85%. So at that time, the directors of equalization staff, what we do is we start analyzing, where are we off? Where, is it in a certain neighborhood? Is it a certain city? Is it, we just start analyzing all of our property transfers. And then we come up with what's known as intentions, and those intentions are what we plan to do to make this above 85%, bit closer to 100%, which is the market valuation. And those intentions are sent to peer every year. And then peer comes back with another set of numbers, which I'll get to in just a couple minutes. So some of the information that I provide to you with this study is 7.5% of all of these good sales were over 100% of assessed value. Keep in mind, some of those are foreclosures that have taken place in the county, and some other studies that you don't see behind the scenes are some of those properties that were purchased in June of 2020, and then in July they got a building permit for some lower level finishes or remodels. Some of those types of situations are within that 7.5%. So there were improvements after the sale, and assessments were increased because of the improvements. So after all the analyzation that we do, after all of the building permits that we have inspected, after everything that we do, the reappraisals that we do throughout the year, our ending ratio becomes 90.82%. So we go from 84.8%, and then after any adjustments, after we've reappraised, looked at all of our statistics, we've moved that median ratio to 90.82. So what that means is our assessments are at 90.82% of the selling prices on average. On average, not every one, because we still have, now we have 13% that are over 100%. And one of the percentages or the numbers that I didn't touch on, while we had 7.5% that were over 100%, we had 51% of our sales were under 85. That meant we were low. We were low in our assessments in regards to market. But after we reappraised, did the building permits, now we're only 26% of the 1,383 sales, 26% of them are still under 85%. But you're going to have that. What you have is the 60% where we're right on target. And then we have 15% where we're too high, and we have 26% that are too low. In the perfect world, we'd be all at 90.82, but that's just not,
Carla, I have a
it's
question.
not even possible.
Real estate today is pretty much on fire, and you have tremendous number of sales where property is listed at a certain price, and because of the competition and scarcity of available properties, they overbid these things. So they'll get into a bidding war, and a $200,000 house can go for a $240,000 house. I understand this, and Understand the assessment has to go through the mortgage and all that kind of stuff. My concern is, if you're listing that at market was at 200 and the sell price is 240, is that considered market then at that inflated price? Because what I'm worried about is the fact that we live in this time, and we have property that is overpriced. And if we use that as the market based upon which we apply the 90% value on that particular property, what happens when real estate goes around? Because it comes around, and it will go down at some point in time. So then, are we prepared to make that adjustment to the taxpayer, saying, well, we know it was artificially high, and now it is reality? Are we capable of then reassessing that at a lower price? Because I'm concerned about the fact that our taxes are just too damn high right now. And it concerns me. So I wondered how we do this. When you consider market, is that at the sale price of the property after it's been artificially built higher? Or do we go back to the original asking price? I don't know if I'm making that clear at all, but you understand what I'm trying to say.
So the statistics and the information that we work with is what's recorded in the Register of Deeds.
Okay.
So that would be what you would consider the inflated price.
Correct.
As for assessments, we look at the sale prices and we make adjustments in according to the sale price. But our system is set in place to be what I would consider is a Kelley Blue Book of assessments. We have a book and we have a manual, and we say this house is at an average quality, and it's 1,200 square feet, and it has a deck and basement finish, and we come up with a value based on our Kelley Blue Book of assessments.
Blue book.
Yep, and I have staff that they don't like me to use the Kelley Blue Book reference, but I think a lot of people understand that. We have a manual that we use to come up with assessments. And then we make adjustments with the market on properties that have sold. And we try to determine what is driving the market. Is it a certain neighborhood? Is it a certain style of home? Is it a certain occupancy, the duplexes versus townhomes versus single family. We look at all of those different categories and we try to determine what is driving the market. And yes, we do use what is recorded in the Register of Deeds, but we don't do a one-year analysis because we know that this is a really high year and interest rates are low, inventory is low. There's a lot of things that are, driving that, and that's why we do a 1 year, a 2 year, and a 3 year analysis. And a lot of our final determination is based on more of a 2 year average than the 1 year because of what's happening in it. And that's why we end up with our median ratio of 90.82. And my best guess in any of this analysis, those 26% that are under 85% of the median assessment ratio are the people that pay too much. And our assessments say we can't go that high. We don't have enough information to go that high because they overpaid. So that's that group, in my best guess. That's that group.
Well, the other thing that we spend time on a county board talking about individual counties. And some counties are below 85%, and they get responded, they get gig from the state where they have to raise that. So my question is, okay, so 85 is probably the standard that the state has set. We're at 90. Now, did we do this according to the book, or can we have an ability to say, well, maybe 90% is too high, maybe it should be 87%, I don't know. But how, that it concerns me again, at 90% of the value versus other counties that get by with 85% of that evaluation. Why are we at 90%? That's my question.
Absolutely.
Why aren't we at 85?
That brings me to the third page, and we can come back to this one.
Okay.
After we get to the third.
Because my follow-up question is, do we have the discretion to back that down?
Does the county board?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay, so that question has been brought to me several times. Why is Lincoln County so high? Why are other counties so low? I put together other counties. Some counties that are very similar to Lincoln County and some counties that are close along the borders of Lincoln County. We're actually low. Bonhomme and Union have a lower, these are level of assessments, median level of assessments. Lincoln County is still probably on the low end of assessments. What I tell my staff in the office is, I wish they didn't make the tax issue an assessment issue. My job is to put a value on a property. And state law says that value shall be market value. I don't determine the taxes, but I do determine the value.
I'm just looking, well, I'm surprised that Turner County is right up there with Pennington County.
I'm not.
Seems relatively.
This is their third year of a reappraisal. Their values are, this is their third cycle of a reappraisal. They've been reassessing properties the way they should have been for at least 15 to 20 years.
I had a conversation with one of the commissioners from Union County, and I see they're at 86. Now, okay, take one more minute for you,
Yep.
please. When I look at a county like Union County, for example, that was at 89, and in 19 it went to 85, and now it went back up. What constitutes a reduction of going from one, or going down from 89 to 85? Use that for any county. Why did that happen? Is that just the properties, or the sales were that much lower on that particular year that they used for the market?
I don't want to speak for Lincoln, or for Union County, but I can see, if we go back to the previous slide, Jake. Do you see where we were started out at 84.8? I could have raised 1% and we would have been at 85%. And that's the low bar. It's where you tell your kids you're gonna pass with a D. You're gonna pass high school with a D. And that's where I look at 85%. I can pass. But state law still says market value 100%. I want to give some leeway to Lincoln County in regards to, what if the market continues to increase? And it increased a lot, 6 to 7%, the market did. 6 to 7%. Lots of information out on Kelloland, Argus Leader, this Sioux Falls Business Journal, 6 to 7% all day long. If I increase by 1% and just set the bar at 85, and it continues to increase, go from 85 down to 70 really fast. And then what do I have to do? I have to increase 10%, 15% on already properties that we've reassessed. And then we hear another set of, concerns out there. That's how I look at it. Why a lot of county assessors, they have this number in their head for their level of assessment, their median level assessment. A lot of them say between 92 and 94. And that gives them leeway if the markets increase or the markets decrease. That target remains, or that bullseye remains, very close to the target. You can still reach your target without driving or increasing assessments or decreasing them if it happens to burst.
Little different question, Carla.
You bet.
Years prior, we've had some people who come in and they've got an appraisal on their property and they just bought it, and market would tell us, hey, I bought my house at 200,000 and I got an appraisal here that my bank did for me and it came in at 202. Are we gonna see a lot of those again this year, or have you worked with those people administratively to try to compromise their claims?
Great question. So, yes, we have had a handful of those, some of which we have put over into a consent agenda. Like, we looked at their appraisal, we felt it was a very credible, it was not just for refinancing, more restricted, and do an interior. I mean, it was a full type fee appraisal. We have moved those appeals over to a consent, agreed with the appraisal value, yes.
Okay.
Yep. You will see a few of them that we are in disagreement with also, and you'll see why.
We'll hear the case.
Pardon?
We'll hear the case.
Okay. I do have some more chicken scratches to show you in regards to the level of assessment and what it means and how it affects your taxable value. So in 2021, our level of assessment was 90.82% after an audit. Every year, the South Dakota Department of Revenue will come up with a factor. And that factor is what's applied to all assessments, all assessed values, to come up with a taxable value. And it's a very simple formula. 85% divided by our level of assessment equals the factor. After an audit, the Department of Revenue says, okay, Lincoln County, you're at 90.82% of market median. You're taxed at a representation of 85%. So you're taxed at 85%. You're not at 100. So to bring this level of assessment to an 85% taxable level, we apply this number to all assessments. So what does that mean? That means for every $100,000 of assessed value, year 2021, you would be taxed at $93,500 because 100,000 times the factor equals the taxable value. And you can see that we were at 90.2 last year, so our factor, so for our 2020 taxes paid 2021, our level of assessment was 90.2. So we take our assessed value times the factor, your taxable value last year or this year for your tax year. For every 100,000, you were taxed on 94,200 or $94,200. And then I just did it by year. So, Commissioner Aaron's, do you have the authority to lower it? The assessed value from 90.82. I believe in and I don't have the law number right at hand, but you do have the authority to lower that
That's what I'm trying
to
look for.
85.
That's what I'm
But
trying
our
to look for here.
taxable value, our factor would now become 1. So you're still on every $100,000 being taxed at 93,500, even if you lowered all values to that 85. You would still pay taxes on that same amount.
I think going towards what Commissioner Schmidt was saying is, he is, if I'm hearing him correctly, identifying an overheated market. Is there a discretionary authority there on the part of this board to roll that back en masse? You know, like, let's say across the board, if the assessed value comes in at X, we can dial that back. Do we have that authority? You know, because for example, you may not get
Yep.
everybody in the heated market filing a
No.
property tax appeal. Like you said, less than 1%. But does the board have the ability, on behalf of those people, to dial that back?
This is your, what you have the power to do. And I believe, and you're more apt to the legal question than I am, equalize between taxing districts and between classes of property. The board shall raise or lower, if necessary, each class of property on a percentage basis, covering the class as a whole within the assessment district. So my understanding is Lincoln County is a assessment district.
But that would only apply if you were equalizing between the taxing districts. I mean, that's part of that paragraph, so that wouldn't apply across the board, at least in my opinion.
I will tell you this was brought up right after our first year of reappraisal because there were concerns that the values were, they were well above what they were before. I did reach out to the Department of Revenue and I said, has anybody ever done this number 4? And nobody in the Department of Revenue at that time had heard of a county doing it. I don't know what it would look like, and I'm not sure how it would be applied. I mean, I would leave that question, up to our legal counsel if the board were to wanting to do something within subsection 4.
Carla, I admire your team and your tenacity at getting this right. But here's what confronts me, is people call me and they'll say, do you know that my situation went up 20%, 25%, whatever? And you try to explain to them, yes, there's a school district involved, look at what the county gets. You know, and I know we get a very small percentage, but overall, the taxes are what the taxes are, and we can't control what the school districts are. But we can make assessments at what value that what percentage we put on. And we got a lot of angry people out there. I've had the great honor and ability to sit behind this thing for a long time, and I've never had so many people upset with taxes as they are this year. And that's what my concern is. That's what I'm looking at. And I know it's doubly due, and what really does concern me is that inflated markets are really out there. We're in a hot situation everywhere you go, that prices are inflated well beyond, I think, what their true value is. And I go back to this same situation again. How do we have the ability to adjust if the market goes down? I mean, and I look at that from a standpoint, from a income for not only school districts, but an income for counties as well. If we have set something artificially high, we get the taxes at that level, and the market goes south, and then we have to readjust that to market. Well, then our income goes down accordingly as well. So it's, you know, you're on wiggly ground in my mind.
We have the same ability to raise and lower values in according to the market. Unfortunately, we're always a year behind, because when we
You are.
yeah, we're looking at our
You're-
2020 assessments to come up with our 2020 sales to come up with our 2021 assessments. So we're always working backwards. We got to wait to see what the market does, and then we, you know, make our next year predictions on our assessments. And we have the same ability to lower 1% as in to raise 1% in a neighborhood, in a city, by a class. We can do that. I mean,
Well,
I still feel like, okay, I've got a few years left, very few,
No.
like 3 and 12 days and whatever hours. No.
Okay.
So I want to actually lower values someday and see what the taxes do, because it's not going to change the taxes. It's not going to change the taxes. And I cannot base my value and adopt a lower standard to serve as a basis for taxes. I'm to put a value on property. I understand we get the same questions in regards, my taxes are too high. I don't have the authority or the ability to determine what the tax amounts are. I mean, our schools, our city, our townships, our county folks, they're the ones that are setting the budget. And I am very respectful for those people in attendance that are concerned about budgets. And I, you know, kudos to them, you know, but I'll be the one to say it. I mean, it starts at the county level, but the biggest chunk of your tax bills goes to the school.
Yeah.
I mean, the biggest, and I'm not blaming the schools. I want to go on record. I'm not blaming the schools. But be mindful of the budgets in those other taxing entities.
Well, you said, you know, we set the value, and the school districts can determine whatever mill levy they want to apply to that. I mean, we have no control over that. You know, unfortunately, we are hampered by that because we get 3% CPI, which is ever less. So if a person pays $5,000 in taxes a year and they pay $2,500 the first half, the county will probably get about $650, and we do all the work for it. So, but I'm done preaching, Paula.
I understand.
Okay.
It's a very touchy subject, taxes, assessments, reappraisal.
Very
We've been hearing it.
contentious, Very contentious.
So my final slide is a preview of what may be heard during our future building. I put something together for our future building committee. Now, these are all factual numbers. When we look at the amount of property transfers, the amount of reappraisal projects, when we look at plats that are filed in the Register of Deeds, these all come from a source within the courthouse. Most of which the Register of Deeds have two parts to this. What I found very concerning were two parts, property transfers and plats. Last year, with the amount of plats filed in Lincoln County, at this time, there were 40 plats filed in Lincoln County as of when I put this together last Thursday or Friday. This year, there's 65 plats. That's about a 60% increase from last year.
Where did most
Things
of,
are not slowing down.
were most of those in the joint jurisdiction area between Sioux Falls and Lincoln County, if you know offhand?
I don't know that. Those are just strictly plats filed within the
Countywide.
county, yep.
I would venture to guess, Commissioner Aaron's, if that's true, looking around.
And if I put these all on some type of curve, it looked kind of goofy, but if you put them over the top of each other, because I'm dealing with hundreds of a 100 number and 1,000 number, and to see that on chart was kind of whacked out. But, our property transfers, as of November through March of 2020, we had 1,100 property transfers that were filed in the Register of Deeds. In the same time frame this year, 1,500. And that usually follows the plats. This curve usually follows the plats and the amount of homes that are being built. So our plats, our transfers, and our new home permits usually follow that same curve. And I don't have new home permits at this time for this meeting because that is one of the positions I just filled, so I don't have a good data set for you. But I would be I'd be very surprised if it didn't follow that same curve. And you can see through the years, there are fluctuations. There are, if you look at 2000, even in 2013, we had 3,100 property transfers that were built. But I'd almost believe that we had, a record number new homes being built and plats being filed. So there are years where they're lower. In 2014, it went to 2,800. 2019, just 2 years ago, our property transfers were 2,900. So they were probably in that 35% decrease. And our plats followed the same pattern. Just being in the office that I am and looking at what that meant, it was an extremely wet year. It was an extremely wet year. So a lot of projects didn't get completed or even started, and that's why you saw that upward trend in 2020. So that was, maybe the same thing happened in 2013. I wasn't in Lincoln County at that time, but I think weather conditions could play into effect on that.
You might want to bring this slide to our courthouse improvement committee meeting tomorrow night. Sorry, and you might want to bring this slide with you to the courthouse improvement committee meeting tomorrow night. And if you have the number of, I don't know if you will by that time, the number of new home permits to add to that as well. If you don't, you don't, but
I could try.
this may be very interesting information to that committee.
I can try to do that. I am putting together a handbook for all of the commissioners and the consolidated board members, just to give an overview of what we are looking at in regards to how our appeals and our information is put together. I am also putting together some information on our mass appraisal system, how we come up with a value, and some of the statistical testing that we do, and some of the ratios. You know, you saw the end ratio. You didn't see the 1,300 sales that we used to analyze, but I'm gonna give you a preview of how we look at an addition and how we broke it down into, you know, a 12-month study and a 24-month study. And we looked at, you know, we look at the style, the sale prices, because, you know, a lot of folks say, well, you know, it's the $200,000 to $250,000 homes that are selling for more than, you know, what they're assessed at. On the flip side, our higher priced homes aren't selling for, they could be selling for less. We run all those statistics to make sure that our high dollared homes are not selling for more than our low selling homes in accordance to a ratio. So we do all of that statistical testing, because we don't want to just raise everybody 15%, because some of those areas might not need a 10% adjustment. They might be over assessed. So to put all those blanket adjustments on some of those properties could be overinflating those. We try to narrow it down to an area, a style, whatever category we feel needs the adjustment. For instance, T, we raised 17% on average. Harrisburg, we raised 6% on average. Let's say we decided to raise everything 10%. T would be too low, Harrisburg would be too high. That's not fair. That's not equalizing.
There are no easy answers.
Do you have anything else for us this morning, Carla? Thank you.
Thank you.
Very good, good
Put a
data.
lot of work into it.
Yes, thank you.
We'll go ahead and move on to item 29 on the agenda. Sherry?
Good morning. We have several deceased liens in our office, and I want to kind of get a feel on how we want to do a compromise on them. What we used to do is we'd bring them in on the agenda every now and then and, you know, go through the compromise process as we did earlier today. At this point, we have 13 for Carapore and 18 that are court-appointed that have been deceased for more than 5 years as of January 1st, 2021. They have not gone through the catastrophic process. What I wanted to do is take the form that we have, the in-house request for compromise, and just submit that to you without any of the backup information, because honestly, it's about this thick. So they have been verified that they are deceased. They have been verified that they've gone through probate, whatever, all that information when I bring them to you. Then after that, on January, with the first meeting in January, then we'll kind of bulk them on there. But I want to make sure that it's okay just to do the in-house request without all the supporting documentation. And these are just, at this point, it's just on people that have been deceased for more than 5 years as of January 1st, 2021.
Do you need a official action on that?
Probably not. It's just, if it's okay to do it this way, then I'll start putting it on the agenda. I'll put it on the agenda within the next meeting or so. We can go through the compromise. It might be on the consent agenda if that works.
If you've got 5 years' worth and it's documented, I think that's the
mean,
route to go.
You have it available if somebody wants to look at
They
it.
want
Yep.
to challenge it, they can.
Yep. And then, I mean, it's basically, we're going into a new computer system, so I want to clean up all the old records
Sure,
and
that,
get up to date on them.
that makes sense. As
Okay.
long as the records are available if somebody wants to.
Yeah, we'll retain the record.
Okay,
Either in scan form or paper form.
all right.
Okay, so then the next one is I've started receiving the checks from Midco regarding the agreement that was signed on April 1st. I've got $1,200, which is the first 2 months' payments. And I know we've talked about whether we were going to put it into the 4-H assigned balance fund so that we would have it available for the building. Is that what we want to do? Or do we want to just put it into a rents into the general's fund?
I just as soon say, put into the 4-H fund so they have funds available if they start a building. They've got some ability to have some revenue without going through a belabored process.
I think that was the original intent that we
Well,
talked about,
It
but
was discussed, it was never formalized, and this is for the rent at the transfer station, not at the 4-H building.
Oh.
So that's where the difference is.
okay.
And I think I probably want a board action on that one,
You do want a board action
do,
on
yeah.
that one? What,
because it's assigning it to the assigned account.
so what motion would you be looking for?
To be able to put this into the line item for the rents to be used for 4-H buildings, and then move to the assigned balance at the year end.
So move, Madam Chair, on that motion.
Thank you. Is there a second?
I'll second it.
Thank you. Any further discussion? Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes,
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Okay, so now I've got the first quarter adjustments for the 2021 budget. The first one that I'm looking at is to transfer the budgeted cash from the general fund to the 24/7 fund.
Is there a motion?
So moved, Madam Chair.
Thank you. Is there a second?
so if I understand the motion, I'm trying to read it here. It says we're transferring 58,476 to the 24/7 fund.
Correct.
Is that right?
Yep,
Okay.
and it was budgeted.
And then it says approved distribution of domestic abuse
Don't-
funds.
that's
Is that
next.
something different?
Yep,
Okay. I was trying to do the math
Yep.
there, and I'm like, oh,
yep,
that
nope,
doesn't
nope,
add
it's,
up.
it's something different.
Okay, yeah, I second that.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
Okay, then I've got automatic budget supplements. These are for grants that the sheriff's office has gotten for overtime, different overtime. It will go into the grant funds and then into wages to offset those wages. So I just need approval on that.
Is there a motion?
Also move.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. Sean, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's,
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Landine.
Yes.
All right, then last but not least, I have domestic abuse funds. This account is set up to be, the funds are accumulated and then sent out to domestic abuse shelters or whatnot. So currently, we have a balance on this account of $23,262.91. This account is not supposed to keep a balance. It's supposed to be distributed out. What I'm gonna do is ask that we distribute this out to the Children's Inn in the amount of 11,631.46, and the Compass Center for 11,631.45. I have done some research on domestic violence places in Lincoln County, and with the state's attorney, and these are two places that they refer domestic violence people to. Now, there is an option where the county can retain 10% of it for administrative. I don't know if that's something that you want to think about. But currently this year, we do have funds that are going to Children's Inn in the amount of $7,200, the Compass Center in the amount of $12,000, the Helpline Center $12,000, and Interlakes for $2,800. Those come out of the general fund money, so those have been budgeted and sent. This would be in addition to the budgeted money.
Thank you. I've heard the request. Is there a motion?
So this is on top of what's already been budgeted?
Yes,
Okay.
yep. And this is not our money. This is a money, I believe, that they get from marriage and divorce fees. So this is by statute money that is supposed to be collected and dispersed. We
Is
just
this the
have
sum-
not done it.
Is this the sum we get every year, Sherry?
Every month?
No, but I mean, is it the total aggregate amount?
No, this is built up over years.
Well, this has been built up over
I don't-
years.
Years, yeah,
Years,
yeah.
okay. You know, it's kind of like a windfall, because if we had already allocated to these nonprofits that are dealing with that, this is kind of a windfall situation. So if we get the same amount every year, then we wouldn't have to pay anything out of our general.
I already looked into that. No, I think it's probably about 6,000 that we accumulate in this. And what I want to do going forward then is probably, I'm going to try to do quarterly adjustments, and then I'll look at that fund every quarter and just send the money out rather than letting it accumulate like this.
Is it possible to carry over this domestic abuse until next year? So when we are going to make allocations to the Children's Inn or to the Compass Center, that we can apply this money, this $23,000 to their allocation and not hit our budget?
Well, it obviously is possible because it has happened. However, statutorily, this is supposed to be done annually. So, I mean,
Okay.
Well, we could wait, what I'd like to do is something like what Commissioner Schmidt is saying, is at least wait until budget time. And then, because we've already given some money to these folks, and I'm wondering if maybe there's a couple other groups out there that could use some assistance as well.
this domestic violence is specifically for shelters and domestic violence centers. It wouldn't be for the help center or other places that we've already, Interlakes, things like that.
What about Ronald McDonald House?
That's not a domestic abuse center.
Okay, all right. I'm just wondering if there's some other good that we can do without just making a decision here on the spur of the moment.
Well, and, and I get that, and I looked at it, but with the statute is very clear that it has to be for domestic violence funds.
And
So-
you're asking that this be done today, correct?
You don't have to do anything.
Have we already dispersed monies to these people in their regular
We have dispersed general funds to the people that I had mentioned.
I think it was 12,000 something to the Compass Center and.
Yep, and 7,200 to Children's Inn.
Children's Inn.
And technically, on your budget process last year, you did say that you wanted 6,500 to go out of this fund to Children's Inn. So you have budgeted 6,500 to already be sent out of this fund to Children's Inn.
I think if it's something that we should have been doing, we should get it done and start with a clean slate. And maybe look at those at budget time for the next year.
Yep, and do you want to retain the 10% for administrative fee or just send it out?
I'd keep the 10% for administration fee.
Yeah, if that's what the law allows.
Yeah, I don't have any feelings about that one way or the other.
Okay,
You're asking for a motion on this.
I am.
Is there a motion?
You know, I'm gonna move on this, that we do, Sherry, send this money out, but then when it comes to next year, I also would wanna notify these that this is kind of a one-time payment, that they adjust their budget and doesn't look to the county for the same kind of support out of our general fund that we have. Having said that, I have received many times overpayments for compensation as a nonprofit, but always with the stipulation that in my next year's budget, I include this one-time payment as the allocation from the county. So having said that, I can move that we will accept your recommendation to these two domestic abuse nonprofits with the stipulation that they are notified that this is a one-time payment and it may be in lieu of what we would give next year.
With the 10% reduction.
Yeah, with the 10% reduction.
If you change that to shall be in lieu of, I'll second it.
I'll change it to shall be.
I'll second that.
Fair enough.
Got a motion and a second. Sean, will you call the roll?
What is the motion? Clarification, please.
We are going to retain 10% of this fund, divide the rest between these two entities, and also notify them that this amount shall be in place of their 2022 budget allotment. Is that correct?
That's correct.
So we're saying now we won't be budgeting any money for them
That's-
next year.
Shall be in place or shall be taken into consideration.
No, it shall be in place. They're getting their next year's payment now.
Yeah.
Which seems fair.
All right, John, will you call the roll, please?
Commissioner Aaron's?
Yes.
Commissioner Gibbon?
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt?
Yes.
Commissioner Landine?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Sherry.
Wendy, I didn't realize you were at the beginning of the agenda and at the end, so my apologies.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Just
I'm
think
gonna-
that- just
I'm gonna
think
have
that
to-
you've learned, so.
I'm gonna have to step out at about 12:15. My understanding though is that we're gonna need an executive session after this. So I'll turn the chair over to Commissioner Aaron's here in just a few minutes.
Okay, well, I'll try not to take up too much of our time today, but I handed out the report that I prepared. I apologize, that was not on Civic Clerk last week because I was still gathering numbers by the time that the agenda items were needed. So just some highlights from the first quarter for 4-H. We had practices for livestock judging in Beersford in January and one in February at the 4-H building. Had some members participate at the Sioux Empire Livestock Show in January, and 9 members compete at the STSU Little I virtual judging contest at the end of March. Shooting sports is nearly wrapping up for their season. They started in January 17th, and they have had 2 outdoor practices on the grounds on 2 Saturdays when the weather has been nice, so that's been good for them. Their state shoot will be in Pierre the last weekend in April, so then they'll be done practicing there on the 18th. We had a consumer decision-making and horticulture skill-a-thon on President's Day with 13 members that came and did that contest, and we'll plan for another one in June. We're wrapping up our crafty clover bags. March, we had gnomes, and we have starter seed kits for April. That'll just be our last one for this 4-H year as we get ready for our summer events. The Youth for the Quality Care of Animals training is something that all 4-H members have to complete that have any animal projects. So we had 53 youth that attended those trainings at 5 different locations. Other items, we had a county 4-H t-shirt design that will be the new t-shirt design available at Achievement Days. We had a market beef weigh-in that we were unable to do last year due to COVID, so it was good to do something kind of normal again. As for me, I gave a report to the county 4-H program to the Canton Rotary in February. Partnered with the Sioux Empire Livestock Show the last week in January. I joined the State 4-H Consumer Decision Making Committee as well as the State Poultry Committee. We interviewed summer intern candidates in February. On March 31st, I turned in a grant for the state of South Dakota for the Workforce Education Grant to go towards the livestock facility. That is a matching grant. So the amount of the grant that we are asking for is $175,000. So they award that grant April 19th, so fingers crossed. So commercial pesticide applicator testing, we have had 11 people test so far for that testing, which is a big change from last year because last year we only had one person test due to internet issues and Jessica being the only person in the office. Right now, we still have 4 people scheduled to test for the first 2 weeks in April. And yesterday when I was at the office, I had 2 people call that wanted to schedule. But we were a little far out for what they wanted, so we'll see if they were able to get in somewhere else or if they'll be coming to us. So facility usage for January to March, this just gives you what we've had in our building at that time. So shooting sports practices, of course, we've had some club meetings in January and February. That consumer decision-making and horticulture skill-a-thon, judging practice, the YQCA training. One highlight is the East River Rabbit Readers Show was March 20th. They had 1,565 rabbits in that building. The foundation did concessions and the rabbits plan to come back in November for another show. The Lennox Sunstrom FFA chapter held their spring career development events March 22nd, which was a Monday. They had 831 students from 25 chapters there, and our building was the home base as well as where they ate their lunch and had the poultry contest. And just to give you some perspective, in a non-COVID year, they have about 1,200 students, probably from about 40 schools that come to that contest. We also had a Turner County 4-H club that used our meeting for one of their club meetings this month. And we had our fruit delivery and sort there March 27th, which was the first time we've done it on location. And then we've had January and March leaders meetings. And then coming up in the building, there's just a rabbit fun show April 10th, which just is a small youth event. And then our Raise the Roof fundraiser May 1st. So.
You can fit that many people in that building? Wow.
Well, so with the FFA event, they came in, they could start coming in at 9 o'clock, and then they start getting released at 10 o'clock. So some of them were outside, and thankfully that day it was a good day. So when they came back from their contest to eat their lunch, they were able to eat outside, a lot of them. So thank goodness it wasn't the next day because it was pretty rainy and muddy the next day. So
This is a good report, Wendy.
thank you.
A lot of stuff going on here.
March was quite busy. So, and a lot in a row. And so I do want to thank John and John for helping us unload the fruit because we needed the forklift to get that off the truck. And that went really fast that day and just helping us move things around, especially when we had back-to-back-to-back events, so. Fruit sales are over. Yep, so the total profit that we brought in from that was $5,800 for the, so half of that will go to the Leaders Association and half goes back to the clubs. So, okay, thanks.
Wendy, can I have a copy of that? That's fine.
All yours, Joel.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, there's a request for executive session. Do I hear a motion to go into executive session? If so, on what basis?
So moved to go into executive session, and Mr. Chairman, would you read the rationale, please?
I don't know what the rationale is. Legal. So,
South Dakota Codified Law.
that's gonna be under SDCL 1-25-2 sub 3.
Do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Sean, please call the roll.
Commissioner Gibbon,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron's.
Yes. All right, we're in executive session now. Thank you.
We come out of executive session.
I'll second it.
Any discussion? Please, I'll call the roll.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron.
Yes. I have motion to adjourn. We're out of executive session. Do I have motion to adjourn?
I so move that we adjourn.
Second.
Call the roll.
Commissioner Gibbons,
Yes.
Commissioner Schmidt,
Yes.
Commissioner Aaron.
Yes.
Thank you.